Welcome back to the PresPod. I'm Reverend Tasha Blackburn here at First Presbyterian Church, and I have a special guest today. Drum roll on the card table. Drum roll, it is Eddie Donovan. Welcome, Eddie.
Well, I'm exceptionally happy to be here, and just thanks for having me so I can tell some of the story of the boys' home.
Exactly. I want you to tell the story of the boys' home. You are also, we are neighbors to each other.
Yes,
like
we are.
Literal neighbors to each other, but that's not why I've invited you on here. I've invited you on here because you are the director of the Fort Smith Boys Home. And I don't know if our listeners know this, but for many years now, here at First Pres, our Christmas Eve offering, 100% of our Christmas Eve offering goes to a local not-for-profit who we think is doing amazing work. Our mission committee votes on it or whatever. And this year, they voted for the boys' home that they want the offering to go to. And we were sitting around, as we do around this place, and thinking, you know, we never promote that as much as we should. We say it that night, you know, and it might be in the bulletin, but we don't really give people a chance to know more about what they might be giving to. So that's why I'm so glad you're here.
Well, I'm thrilled to be here, and I know there's a lot of needy organizations, nonprofits in Fort Smith, and we're very proud to be able to get this, but also just the association with First Presbyterian.
Yeah, we've had a long relationship, haven't we? I think so.
We have, and we love having relationships with local organizations and businesses, but ones like your First Pres that does what you do with the community means a lot to us.
No, Eddie, go on. No. I'm teasing. Hey, so I do want to know because, you know, yes, First Pres has had a long relationship with the boys' home, but not as long as probably its own history, which is 46 years. I'm not sure people wouldn't have realized that.
Well, and I'm from Fort Smith, and I wouldn't have realized it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say how old I was, but I was a very young man when in 1975, local judges and Eastside Baptist Church, they had the pastor over there whose name escapes me at this time. I'm sorry about that. But anyway, some local businessmen and women got together and started forming what would be known as the Boys Shelter in 75, and they got the money together, and it was completed in 1978.
Really? So it was a combination of judges and then a church.
It was. I think there were a few probation officers involved. And in the early years, I don't have a lot of history, but probably the first 15, 20 years of the existence of the boys' shelter, Eastside Baptist had a big part in that.
Yeah.
As the history went on, that kind of went away. And initially, too, the boys' home took foster kids, but they also took kids at CJS, Comprehensive Juvenile Services. So that's why the judges got involved, because there were kids from that venue. So, and since then, we're exclusively foster kids.
Yeah. So back to 46 years ago, what was the need they were seeing that they thought we need a boys' shelter? What were they seeing? Were they seeing kids come through the juvenile system and not having a place to go once their time was up? Or, I mean, what were they seeing?
Well, a lot of the kids in the juvenile system were still at home. They might have been adjudicated for whatever crime or issue they'd gotten in, but they needed to break from that. And so that was a big part of that. And foster kids, I don't know what the ratios and the numbers were in 1975 to 78, but it certainly was a problem back then too. So, you know, both were part of the dynamic of opening the boys' home. Even early in my tenure, almost 10 years ago, we did have some CJS kids. And again, they went home on the weekend and came with us during the week.
Interesting.
And, you know, that had some opportunities, but it was totally different. And mixing those two together with totally different formats was a little bit problematic.
Yeah, the two circles, they might overlap somewhat, but they don't overlap completely.
Well, they don't. And the boys that couldn't go home, frustrated that other boys were going home and things like that. So,
and so now you're completely, the boys' home is all boys who find themselves in the foster care system. Mm-hmm. And that's been true for years now.
Yes.
And how many years have you then been with the boys' home? When did you start? I can't remember, Eddie. I should know that.
I started in middle of 2015, so I'm coming up to 10 years in the middle of next year. So it's been a very short 10 years. It really has. I mean, like any place, we've had some challenges, but not to bore anybody, but and this does date me a little bit, but I'm still proud to say it. I spent 15 years in corporate with Walmart and had a lot of monetary responsibility. I was certainly at a mid-level manager, and then I spent 14 years in mental health, and you can imagine the dynamics of that. And then I spent 7 more years in drug abuse and rehabilitation. And in all of those venues, there were some deaths involved, overdoses, suicidal things with mental health. But the most pressure I've ever felt has been with the boys' home, because while those other things were horrible and I wish they hadn't happened, having these boys' lives in our hands to take care of them from A to Z, I think I've worried more when I went home than when I was there, because you don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
And everybody, including a lot of staff, including some of us, have some trauma from our past. And when other boys come with a different trauma and they traumatize other boys that are there, people being re-traumatized is a real problem for everybody, but me, because I take a lot of responsibility of that. But having said all that, I think those things got me prepared, for what I am doing. Actually, I was asked if probably 18 to 20 years before I took this job, if I was interested in the job. And I was interested, but I don't think I was in a position of maturity to be able to handle it like I've handled it now. And I'm glad I didn't take it then.
Yeah, it's a high pressure job. It is I would assume, folks in your position around the country, it is a high burnout job. And you've stayed 10 years. So when you think about what is it that had you take the job, and what is it that keeps you in the job? What is the work that's happening that you say, nope, it's worth it. It's worth worrying at night. It's worth it.
Well, I will say the reason I took the job is because I've got 2 kids, they're adults now, and they had moved out of the house going to college, and I know I had more to give to kids. I certainly know my strengths and I know my weaknesses, and there are many, but one of my strengths is to be able to look at somebody and talk sincerely to them. And when you're being honest with a kid, you can get a lot of information and maybe, try to help them. And so I knew I had a strength there, and I knew that was the best time for me to do that, because I was not ready for my kids to go to college. It's just part of what it is. But with this opportunity to try to be a leader, a tutor, and give the boys some of the things that they miss from their own families, that excited me.
Okay, so what's kept you in it? What's kept you going?
I would love to say in the 10 years we've probably had 275 kids there.
Wow.
I would like to tell you that all 275 kids have done much better since they've been there. That's not the case. We've had 1 or 2 adopted each year, which is not a bad number.
Wow.
But 1 or 2 means 20 or 25 that we have are not, and they're still basically custody of the state, which is a problem. It's a good problem if you need it, but you hate that happens to anyone.
Yeah.
But what keeps me there is it's the boys, and it's a staff too. It's seeing people that care. It's like we've had a couple of master's level people that worked on the staff, and they were there a week or 2 because they were not there for the right reasons. The people we have, they can all do better, including myself, but everybody there cares, and that makes a big difference. One of the dynamics that was really kind of strange when I first came 10 years ago, what do you need, DHS? And they needed us to take a lot of 6 and 7 and 8-year-olds, and we did that, and all of a sudden we got a house full of grade school kids. That was tough because those kids needed hugged all the time, tucked in at night, and we couldn't do those things. You didn't want to, misrepresent who you were, because some of these still had their parental rights had not been terminated. They were still trying to go back, and you didn't want to muddy the water as far as their emotions are concerned. But that's what they needed. And those kids, when they got upset, they usually didn't break something. They cried, and it was a very difficult thing. It really was. We even had one that was still in a car seat, believe it or not. That's how small the one was. So as we move forward over the next few years, right now we're 13 to 18. We do have a couple of 12-year-olds because DHS likes what we do and how our program's operated, so they give us, with approval, a couple of younger ones. So it's definitely a different dynamic. And I've always said the young kids have the same amount of problems as the older kids. They're just different problems.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And the hormones haven't kicked in.
They haven't kicked in. And sometimes I feel like, man, I'd like to go back to that. But while the hormones haven't kicked in, the emotions have kicked in.
Yeah.
And you do get a lot of that. So totally different dynamics, but they've both been interesting. But again, right now we're, for the most part, teenagers.
Yeah. And so that makes me think, if somebody's listening who says, I know enough to know Arkansas struggles with its number of foster kids. I don't know much more than that. If somebody's listening like that, could you sketch out what is the need that we see here in Arkansas? And then what is the specific need that Boys Home is there to fill within that broader need? I know the need's great, but what do you see on a daily basis around Arkansas?
Well, I haven't looked at it in a couple of weeks, but I did look at it last month. And at that time, there's like 4,000 kids in foster care.
4,000?
4,000.
In our state?
In the state.
Oh.
And, compared, we're a relatively small state, 3.5 million or so.
Yeah.
But 4,000, and there, 500 foster homes. And you could imagine, of those 4,000, some of those kids are already in the foster homes. But the point is, there's not enough foster homes for everybody. And quite frankly, not all foster homes are created equal either.
Yeah.
I've been to some that I didn't really like too much, but there's a few voids. So for the other 3,200 kids that don't have a place, they've got to be somewhere. There are group homes, which basically is what we are, and there are residential facilities like Valley, used to be Vista Health, and places like that. And certainly there's a state hospital. Of the foster kids that need a place, some definitely need a higher level of care and are probably in a residential. While we're a group home, I say we're more of a home than a group home. And one of the reasons I can say that is because we've gone out of our way to make it a home, okay?
Yeah. You actually are a home. They're on zero.
We actually are a home.
Yeah.
And
people can drive by. You're not far from Ben Guerin Park if people want to see.
I thought it was a home when I first realized it was over there.
I think most people think it's a house.
And then
it is.
Yeah, which it is. And then when I first saw it, I thought, well, somebody donated it and they made a boys' home. No, it was made just for that reason.
Oh, really? I didn't realize
for
that.
a boys' shelter. And so when I first came, it had been named the boys' shelter. And 5 years ago, we renamed it the boys' home. The reason we did that is because, you keep saying it's a boys' shelter. Not you, but anybody would.
Yeah.
I've said that myself. But that's not what we're trying to convey to the boys. We're trying to tell them that, we want you back with your parents. We want you back with relatives. But until that can happen, we're going to provide a second home for you here. And I would pick kids up at school or an appointment, and they would say, are we going home? And I thought, yeah, we are going home. And so if you come in our home, and I would love to give anybody a tour that wants it, it'll feel like a home. Now, there are going to be some things that, we have to have. We've got some locked doors. You can't go certain places, but we've went out of our way to make it a home. Matter of fact, I had some boys one day arguing with me, and they said, this is not a home. You've got too many rules and regulations. I said, go talk to my son and daughter.
I was going to say, come to my house.
Yeah, I mean, and we talked about chaos if you don't have those things. And many of the boys don't want that until they get it, and then they like knowing what the expectations are once they get used to it. So,
well, and I think if folks, just to picture it, yes, you walk in, there's a big living room, just like a home would have. The bedrooms are upstairs. 2 kids share each bedroom, like many of us would have in our homes. And then there's a kitchen, and a dining and a kind of eat-in area, dining room, and you eat around the table. You cook in the kitchen. It's a home.
It is, and I've been. We do not lock the doors.
It's not a facility.
It is
right?
not
it's
a facility.
It's a home.
The doors are not locked
on purpose.
Now at night when we go to bed, we lock the doors. But,
yeah.
If somebody wanted to elope, door's not locked. You know,
Yeah.
and they know the rules. Once they're out of sight, we try to, get them back and tell them all the pitfalls and why they shouldn't leave and find out what's bugging them. But at the same time, it's not locked. We don't want it locked.
Yeah.
I'm not going to work in a place like that. Having said that, I know some places need to be locked for a lot of reasons.
Sure.
Right. But I'm very proud of it, and I would give anybody a tour that wanted to come in and see that because I just think it means a lot. We've done a lot. You've been there, certainly, but
Yeah.
we've done quite a bit since you've been there.
Yeah.
One of my challenges, and boys, probably because they're rambunctious, boys because many of them been TPR'd on, they're angry, they're teenagers, they break a lot of things. Okay?
Yeah.
I have fixed so many things over and over. Part of me, it frustrates me, and the other part says, well, we're going to keep doing it because
Remember when you said you weren't done with kids and that you wanted to help raise some more kids? Remember that? Every time you're fixing something, you can kind of remind yourself.
I do, but maybe it's the Irish in me. I don't know. I'm a little stubborn. It's like if somebody keeps breaking something, I'm going to keep putting it back because your bad behavior is not going to lead us to change what we do.
Yeah.
If collectively we think this is the right thing to do. And I'm not saying maybe we don't move something somewhere. One thing we did, which I think you'll get a kick out of, there's 2 places in the boys' home where we constantly had holes in the sheetrock. Coming down the stairs and at the front door. And, that didn't frustrate me too much because these kids are mad and they've had a tumultuous life, right? So I put wood on the walls, like a rustic look.
Oh, sure.
And not only does it look great, but they haven't hit the wall since.
That's pretty good.
No, it twofold. It looks decoratively, it looks pretty cool, and then it's worked. So that's
great.
That's been a good thing. But I want to say one more time, if anybody ever wants to see the boys' home, we've got a website, and you can easily find the number. Would love to give anybody a tour that wants to see
And
it.
you have a great gym now, too, that you guys built a few years ago
We
for
do.
the boys to use. It's got workout equipment. It's a half-size gym for basketball. It's got a screen they can watch movies or the Super Bowl or something. I mean, it's a wonderful addition to the facility, too.
It is. It really has added quite a bit. I wish they all, including staff, used it more and got the exercise that probably all of us need, but especially the boys. But boys in 2024, sadly, they want to be on their phone.
Their thumbs are exercised, right? Yeah.
Thumbs are exercised.
Yeah.
And, I've had that frustration even with my own kids. And then my wife and I went out to eat one night and realized we were both on our phones. It definitely affects all of us.
It creeps.
It does.
It does. So before, I do have one last question for you before I've got something for you to end us on. But what do you wish, you are in and out of this all day long, all week long, all month long, all year long. What do you wish folks who are not eyeball deep in these situations, what do you wish they knew about either the ins and outs of foster care, about teenage boys in this system? What you pick the topic, but what do you wish people better knew?
Well, I've got a whole lot I can say on that, and I do have a different ending that might surprise you a little bit because been thinking about this a lot in the last few days. But foster kids are just like your kids or my kids or any other kid.
Yeah.
I've yet to have one with a third eye. They're normal kids that have been mistreated and misplaced. And again, in 2020s, a lot of that is drug related. Again, I've worked in drug rehab, but I don't know that parents like drugs more than they like their kids, but the addiction and the withdrawal make them do a lot of bad things, and that is mainly in forms of neglect for their kids and not taking care of them. So these kids are normal kids. Where they're not normal, many of them are behind academically because the parents didn't make them go to school, because they moved from one place to another, because you can take hierarchy of needs, for example. All these things are important, but if you don't have safety, you don't have anything, and these kids do not have safety. They don't know where they're going to be, where they're going to end up. Some of them and we kind of emotionally fight that at the boys' home. So someone needs to do homework, they need to be here, they need to do that, but they don't feel safe. And so if you can't get that, you can't get anything. So my number one goal at the boys' home is for them to feel safe when they come there. Mm-hmm. I want them to do homework. I want them to do extracurricular activities and other things. But if we can't get that done, mm-hmm. we need to close shop, right? Mm-hmm. And I think most of the boys do. As a matter of fact, we get a lot of boys, and DHS has told us nobody else has been able to handle them at all. Now, I do know we need to go to the next step, but and that's part of the remodel that I'll talk about too. That's going to help us do that. But I just want everybody to know these are normal kids. I also we do get some kids that have some intellectual disabilities, mm-hmm. And we work with that. We have mm-hmm. quite a few kids that have had an IEP or a 504, and that's fine because they're getting what they need for their educational purposes. I put this in place 10 years ago, and I would love to say it's been so successful. It's ridiculous, but it's not been. And that's there's like a 50-point list of everything somebody should know when they turn 18. Mm. And that's from cooking to cleaning to wallets to
I might need that list for my own kids.
Slip
that over to me, Eddie.
To over-the-counter medication, to even your own, your prescribed medication. How are you going to get it? Everything that they should know, driver's license, you name it. But we've not done a very good job of that. And I would say of most of the kids that have been there, they may have been adequate on 50% of those. Okay. It's like you can, as you say, you can lead a horse to water, can't make them drink. You can take this information to them, but they've got to be receptive to it. Yeah. Also, though, as we all know in this field, you can tell somebody something many times and maybe they're not listening, or at least you're not getting immediate feedback. It doesn't mean they're not listening. It doesn't mean it won't resonate with them later. Yep. And I know from a personal standpoint, have you ever said, man, that's why mom or dad said
exactly. Later you're like, oh. Yeah.
And so I think that does happen. I hope that does happen mm-hmm. with some of our kids. But, these kids need a break. And I'm really going to go outside my lane with what I'm going to say here. From drug rehab to mental health, and specifically these kids. And I don't care what religion they are, but they need God in their life. Yeah. The people that get better, some people, and I equate a lot to this, but like drug rehab, I've never been a 12-step program guy. Not because it hasn't helped people, but because I don't need to call Billy because I'm having a problem. I've got God right here, okay? Yeah. I think these guys need that. Mm-hmm. I don't push that on them. That's mm-hmm. not who we are or what we do. But if they ask me, I'm going to tell them that, mm-hmm. There are options out there. And mm-hmm. one of the things, too, along with that, like, again, I don't know your background growing up, but, my family was all together, 5 kids, and quite frankly, mom and dad, alcoholics, but they worked every day. It was a different era. But we all had foundational stuff. We knew respect. We knew how to treat people. Many of these kids don't have that foundation to know how to do things.
They haven't been given it, yeah.
They haven't been given it.
And I feel like a place like the boys' home has double and triple the pressure because, number one, sometimes you're starting at square one. Mm-hmm. And number two, when you say like the 50 things or whatever, 80 things, whatever it was, 50 to know by 18, for so many of these kids, I got a 19-year-old myself. I have a 19-year-old and an almost 17-year-old. Well, that 19-year-old, I'm not done, by the way. He's not done yet, right? Done yet. But I'm also not done with him. Yeah. But a place like the boys' home, I feel like feels such pressure because at 18, we then expect these kids mm-hmm. You're done now. You're done now. You've turned 18, and so now hope you got it, right? So I have to imagine you guys feel incredible pressure where in our own homes, for almost all of us, we know that 18-year-old isn't quite fully cooked yet, right? And that we're still going to be there to parent and guide them in whatever way is acceptable to them moving forward. But with these kiddos, you're on a time clock.
Well, we are, and I would hate to say how much I didn't know at 18, 19, 20.
I know, right? I mean...
goodness gracious, that's kind of embarrassing, but There is a time crunch, but we do have some options for them. When DHS has moved from you can stay in DHS custody till you're 21. Now I believe it's 24. Okay, and we do have places around the state, not enough of them, but like Get Real 24, where they have an 18 to 21 program.
But that's all they have to choose, right, to do that.
They have to choose.
And so that's hard because also try to tell an 18-year-old anything, any 18-year-old.
Now, the one thing they have added to that, you have to choose, but if you choose no in 6 months, within 6 months, you can come back.
Oh.
You know, so
that's great.
That getting your toe stubbed a few times might, get you back.
Yeah.
That doesn't solve everything, but that gives them more of an opportunity to go to Get Real 24 or some other place. Now, but again, foster kids are available because they need homes. We help them at the Get Real 24s around the state. They have a different criteria. They can basically take who they want. And I'm not saying they're not going to take kids that are challenged, but, they want to be successful too. And from the, they'll get an apartment and they'll get so much money they have to pay their bills and they've got enough to pay their bills and buy their food and have a little extra. So it's a great program. And we've sent 2 over there last year and 2 the year before. So, that's a good option if that's available.
That's
so
great.
That definitely helps, no question. And, with the expansion of the boys' home, and I do want to talk about that for a minute, but is it okay if I talk about that?
Yeah. And the offering, obviously the offering on Christmas Eve, you guys will use it for whatever you most need, but it could be that some of our offering helps kind of renovate a room or something like that. We're hopeful. So tell me, so I think you have up to 12 boys now.
We can have 13. I usually stay at 12, so we have flexibility with the one room.
And you're expanding.
Yes.
You're in the expansion right now.
Yes.
And and once you've finished expanding, you can expand to how many boys?
14 in the other one, and so we will literally go from 12 to 26.
Wow, more than double. You hope the expansion will be finished by
May, June.
This summer.
Yeah, May.
Okay,
June.
so tell us about what you're renovating and expanding to more than double in size.
I could say this: when I came 10 years ago, and it's been me, but it's been a lot of people. So I think we all collectively get some credit for this. But if this was a business, it would have been out of business 40 years ago.
I know.
There wasn't any money, and so over the past few years. We were the boys' shelter and then the boys' home, and then we became a QRTP, which is a qualified residential treatment program. We didn't just do that because we wanted it. We had to jump through some hoops and qualify in order to do that. With that, we get more of a reimbursement for each boy. With that, we were able to put some money in the bank, and we went from not having anything to having a little. So the Trinity multifamily building across from Bar Windows on Zero
there,
came open. And I thought I'll just touch base just to see. And I thought it was a dream for us to be able to do that. Also knew we didn't have the money, which dream. And
minor detail.
Minor detail. But nonetheless, we worked with them and made it a deal. But the thing I'm most proud of, the board, paraphrasing, but we don't have the money for this, but the money we have needs to be spent on that. We're not here to make money. We're here to help foster kids. So the board collectively agreed to that.
Yep.
We spent the money we have, and then Sam Seacard and First National, who's been exceptionally good to us, has helped us make all the rest of that happen. And now we're in the remodel. Okay.
So you bought the building.
Yes.
And now you're remodeling it to make it be a residential home again.
Yes.
Hopefully that home feel again, right? For up to 14 boys.
It will be, but the kind of the plan right now, but this is kind of in flux. Right now we have age 12 to 18, and we actually have one guy that's about to turn 12. He's 11. But what I would like to do is put 15 to 18 in the existing building and maybe 11 to 14 in the new building, 2 totally different mindsets, and that's where we can push that 50-point plan with them a little bit more. Now it's kind of difficult when you have younger ones in there because – a little bit more chaotic. But if we can do that, that's the plan. Okay?
That's great.
Now, I will say this: Are we gonna double income? Yes. Are we gonna double everything else? Yes, and yes.
You got to hire staff. You got to
It's not going to be. We're not doing this for the money.
No,
we're not. And it's actually the remodel is going to cost almost as much as the building. Believe that or not. But it has to be suited just for the boys. And very excited about it.
That's
but it's
exciting, though. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where it's hard because when you're in this work, it is exciting. It's sad that it's needed. You know, it's hard to kind of be fully excited. Yay, we need to serve more, boy. Well, but we do. And it's exciting to have the means and the resources and the leadership and the vision to do it. Because the need's there either way.
It is there either
So,
way, and
yeah.
it's extremely exciting. But there's a lot of pressure on this, and the one thing we are going to do when we open that, we're not going to open it and put 14 boys. We're going to put 2 to 4. We're going to segue into it in a slower pace to make sure that we've got everything set up that needs to be set up. So I think that's going to help us a lot.
I think it's great. Again, that Christmas Eve offering is going toward you guys, toward what you most need it for. So obviously folks can give in the offering, but is there another way that folks listening to this, folks around town can support your guys' work, can advocate for you? End on that, Eddie. Tell us how we could support you more and support those boys more.
Well, I do believe, and I know for a fact there's a lot of organizations like ours that need to support as well. But you can go to our website, which is boyshome.org, and you can see a lot of information from not only there's a donate button, but it also shows you past history of what we've done and what we're going to do going forward. There's also an archive of our newsletters, which, we're kind of proud of, and it kind of shows where we've been and where we're at now, which is a good thing. As I said, also, you can certainly come by and you can reach us at 479-646-2819, and you can come have a tour. You can just love to do that, or you can set that up through the website. And the email address is Boys Home Director. That's one word, and there's 2 S's on Boys Shelter Director. Excuse me. So there's 2 S's on Boys Shelter Director, and I would love to set something up there. I did want to close on something that may seem a little strange, but I wanted to do this if that's okay.
That's fine.
The boys, are our life, and we're trying to do the best we can. And as far as Christmas, we always have a good Christmas for the boys. Matter of fact, I've had some boys that didn't want to leave till Christmas was over, because even kids that were going back home, because they get more presents with us than they've ever gotten. It's not about presents, but sometimes they haven't gotten enough. And so I definitely limit them, but the kids get a lot. But what I'd like to say to anybody listening, and I've been thinking about this a lot, these boys need a lot. Prayer goes a long way. But what I'd ask you or anybody else to do, because I have been through it, when you are with family at Christmas, the uncle that's always griping, the aunt that's got problems, and kids that are running around doing what they shouldn't do, I'm just asking you to maybe hug them and step out and be grateful and be blessed what you have, because the kids I have don't have that. Okay, it's very easy.
They'd love a gripey uncle.
They would love one. They really would.
Yeah.
And we all, including myself, take that for granted. Don't do it this year, and I think we all can have a better year.
I think there is no better way to end, Eddie, than that. I think you are right. This has been, just to remind you, Eddie's the director of the Fort Smith Boys Home. Well respected around town and well deserved for that respect. And I appreciate you being here with us today. And look on social media. We're going to have a few pictures too. So look for us there. I'm sure we'll go viral, Eddie.
Oh, I'm
Are you ready to go viral?
Makeup, please.
Makeup. Yeah, where's makeup? Thank you so much for being with me today.
Yeah,
and thanks to all of you guys. This is another episode of the One PresPod.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Bye.